the central nervous system including the brain, the spinal cord and all that, and the peripheral nervous system including all the nerves that move to the arms, the limbs and all that. Whatever nerves are coming from the brain and the spinal cord and passing to different parts of a body, all those are the peripheral. So the efferent nerve fibers, as I told you, they transmit impulses from tissues or organs to the central nervous system. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to today's session on the chapter, that is chapter 21, Neural Control and Coordination. I am Dr. Divya, Biology faculty, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, Mysuru, Temple of Excellence. So we all know that the coordinated movement between or the coordinated functioning between different organs in our body are very, very important in order to maintain a balance, right? So be it anything, say for example, an athlete who is doing vigorous activity, there also his hands and legs should be well coordinated. So how does this coordination occurs? The coordination is because of within seconds, the messages that are sent to the neural system, that is through the neural system in the form of neural transmitters, the messages will be sent to the brain, wherein the brain will perceive the messages and it will send back the messages to our body, telling us what exactly has to be done. So this is nothing but coordinated, right? When you're walking, only if one of your leg is moving forward and the other leg is not coordinating with it, what might happen? You will trip and fall, right? So for walking, for running, for any of the activity that we are doing, a coordinated movement is very, very important. So that is what we will study in this particular chapter, that is neural control and coordination. So to begin with, we shall study about the neural system first. So to understand the coordination activity, it is important for us to know the neural system. So the neural system of all animals is composed of a highly specialized cells called as neurons. So neurons are the functional units of the cells and they are the ones that conduct impulses and they send these impulses to different parts of the body in order to perform a coordinated function. So our body has thousands together of such neurons which are acting accordingly to perform a coordinated function. And these neurons, they detect, they receive and they transmit different kinds of stimuli. Not just that, somebody who's trying to pinch you, as soon as he pinches you, you will feel the pain, right? How was the pain felt? Why can you feel the pain? It is because of, again, the neurons sending signals in the form of neurotransmitters to the brain stating that something wrong is happening and that is what is causing pain in your body. So that is the function of the neurons here. And the neural organization is very simple in the case of lower invertebrates. But when we talk about the higher vertebrates, the neural system is quite complicated. About the neural system of the vertebrates, we shall study in this chapter in the coming session. So moving further, let us take some of the examples of the neural system of different organisms. Say for example, there is an aquatic organism called as hydra. So if you can see here, I have put a picture of the aquatic organism hydra. So if you can see the neural system of the aquatic organism, that is hydra, it is composed of a network of neurons. If you can see here, all the light structures that are there, they are nothing but neurons and they form a mesh-like arrangement or they form a network-like arrangement. So that is how the nerve cells or the neurons are arranged in the case of hydra. Next, talking about the insects. So as and when we move to higher levels of organism, the complexity of the neural system tends to increase or vary. So when we talk about the insects, the neural system or the arrangement of the neurons in the case of insects is better and it is well organized when compared to that of hydra. So the neural system is better organized in insects, wherein in the insects there is presence of a brain and it has a number of ganglia and neural tissues. So if we can take the example of an insect here, so it has the cerebral ganglia, that is the brain, the ganglia, and it has the longitudinal nerve cords, the peripheral nerve plexus. So like this, the complexity has increased. So simple in Hydra, they are aquatic organism, but they do not have a brain. But in spite of that, they have a network of nerve cells or neurons arranged. And moving to higher organisms, a bit higher, talking about the insects. In insects, there is the brain that is present along with a number of ganglia and the neural tissues. Next, talking about the vertebrates. So, the vertebrates have a well-developed neural system. So, here I have taken the example of human beings. So, if you can see here, in human beings, the nervous system is very well developed, wherein we have the central nervous system and we have the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system including the brain, the spinal cord and all that, and the peripheral nervous system including all the nerves that move to the arms, the limbs and all that. So, this is how very well the nervous system is very well developed and well organized in the case of vertebrates. Next, moving further, we shall study in the case of vertebrates, especially taking the example of a human, how the nervous system is arranged in a human. So, we shall study about the human neural system. So, the human neural system is divided mainly into two parts. That is, it is divided as the central neural system, which is also abbreviated as CNS, and the peripheral neural system abbreviated as PNS. So, what are these two? We shall look into. So, if you can see here, as I told you in the previous slide itself, the central nervous system is made up of the brain and the spinal cord, whereas the peripheral nervous system is the nerves that comes from the brain and the spinal cord to different parts of the body. So, all the nerves come under the peripheral nervous system. So, this is about the two types. So, we shall study in detail the two types. So, talking about the central neural system. So, the central neural system, it includes the brain and the spinal cord, and it is the site for processing all the informations. That is true, right? We had studied in all the previous chapters that we had studied so far, and that related to the human anatomy, wherein anything we do, be it the opening and closing of our eyes, the talking that I'm doing now, anything, any activity that we do, all information will be sent to the brain. So, therefore, brain is the collection center for information, and then it will send back the information to the respective parts of the body, telling us what exactly has to be done. So, therefore, brain is the center where all the informations are controlled and processed. Next, talking about the peripheral neural system. So, the peripheral neural system consists of all the nerves of the body which are associated with the central nervous system, that is the brain and the spinal cord. I had told you, right? Whatever nerves are coming from the brain and the spinal cord and passing to different parts of a body, all those are the peripheral. Periphery means towards the side. The central nervous system is exactly at the center. We have the brain, then we have the spinal cord exactly at the center. But periphery means all the nerves extending from the brain and the spinal cord towards the sides of a body, be it arms or legs and all that. It is nothing but the peripheral nervous system. And the peripheral nervous systems or the peripheral nerve fibers are of two types. One is the efferent fibers and the efferent fibers. So, talking about efferent. Efferent means from the skin, the nerve reaches the spinal cord, or the messages that are sent from the skin to the spinal cord, which is a component of the central nervous system itself. It is the efferent neural system or the efferent fibers. So, here I gave you the example of somebody pinching, right? When somebody pinches you, you feel that pain. That pinching is done on the skin and the muscles, right? Very soon the messages will be sent via the efferent nerve, and efferent nerve is a peripheral nerve, right? It is sent via the peripheral nerve or the efferent nerve in particular to the spinal cord. Then the spinal cord, which receives the signal, will transmit the signal via the efferent nerve towards the muscle, and that is when we sense the pain. And if our brain is not working properly, or if a spinal cord is not working properly, then we will not experience any pain at all. So that is how the informations are sent. So what is the efferent nerve? Efferent nerve is it is a type of a peripheral nerve wherein the messages are sent from one particular organ to the central nervous system, that is spinal cord in this particular example that I have taken, and that information is perceived by the spinal cord and it is sent back through the efferent nerve to the muscles. So therefore the muscle reacts according to that. Very soon you will try to pull your hand, right? You will show a reflex action. So how this reflex action occurs, what is it, and all that we'll study in the coming sessions. So this is about the two types of nerve fibers of the peripheral nervous system, that is the efferent fibers and the efferent fibers. So moving further, we shall study about these two in detail. The first one is the efferent fibers. So the efferent nerve fibers, as I told you, they transmit impulses from tissues or organs to the central nervous system. So here, where are they transmitting impulses? They are transmitting impulses from the skin tissue or the epithelial tissue to the central nervous system, that is the spinal cord. Next, talking about the efferent fibers. The efferent fibers transmit regulatory impulses from the central nervous system to the concerned peripheral tissue or organ. Now, what is the efferent fiber doing here? The efferent fiber is collecting information from the spinal cord and transmitting the information from the central nervous system, that is in this case from the spinal cord to the respective organ, that is the muscle there. So these are the two functions of the efferent nerve and the efferent nerve. So what do we understand from this? So information is received to the central nervous system by the efferent nerve, and from the central nervous system information is given to the organs by the efferent nerve. So that is what we came to know about this. Next, moving further, we shall study about the peripheral nervous system in detail. So the peripheral nervous system is divided into two divisions. One is the somatic neural system and the other one is the autonomic neural system. We shall look into what they are. So somatic neural system. So somatic neural system mainly depends on the impulses from the central nervous system to the skeletal muscles. So impulses means it is nothing but messages in this particular case, or the sense in this particular case. So what happens in the case of the somatic neural system? In the somatic neural system, depends on the information from where it collects the information. It collects the information from the central nervous system, that is the brain and the spinal cord, and sends it to the skeletal muscles. Now skeletal muscles is nothing but it is a peripheral part, right? So what are the skeletal muscles? Skeletal muscles are nothing but those muscles which are attached to the skeletal region or the skeletal frame of a body. They are the skeletal muscles. So all that we had studied in the previous chapter. You can go through that for you to understand very clearly about it. So that is about the somatic neural system. Next, talking about the autonomic neural system. So the autonomic neural system, it transmits impulses from the central nervous system to the involuntary organs and the smooth muscles of the body. So involuntary organs means, what are the involuntary organs? Our heart, our lungs, our kidneys, stomach, all these are involuntary organs, right? Because they are not under our control. So whatever information has to be sent from the central nervous system, that is either the brain or the spinal cord, to the involuntary organs and also to the visceral muscles or the smooth muscles of the body, they are the autonomic neural system. So all those nerves come under the autonomic neural system. So this is about the two divisions of the peripheral neural system. So we need to understand from here the impulses transmitted from the central nervous system to the skeletal muscle is by the somatic neural system, and the impulses transmitted from the central nervous system to the involuntary organs and to the smooth muscles or the visceral muscles is by the autonomic neural system. Next, moving further, we shall study about the autonomic nervous system, which is again classified into two types, that is sympathetic neural system and the parasympathetic neural system. So these are the two types of autonomic neural system. Moving further, there is a separate visceral nervous system. So what is this visceral nervous system? We had studied autonomic neural system, right? In autonomic neural system, the nerve cells transmit impulses from the central nervous system to the involuntary organs and to the visceral muscles or the smooth muscles, right? So how is the nervous system in the smooth muscles? We shall look into. That is nothing but the visceral nervous system. So visceral nervous system is nothing but the smooth muscle nervous system. So visceral nervous system is a part of the peripheral nervous system, and it is made up of a complex of nerves, nerve fibers, ganglia, plexuses. So if you can see here, they are made up of a lot of nerve fibers, ganglia and plexus. It is through these ganglia, nerve fibers and plexus that the information or the impulses travel from the central nervous system to the viscera or the smooth muscles, and from the viscera to the central nervous system. So here there is a type of visceral nervous system, that is the nervous system that is found in the smooth muscles, and they are nothing but a part of the peripheral nervous system. What is their function? They contain different types of, or they are made up of complexes of nerves, nerve fibers, ganglia and plexuses. And what is their function? Their function is to carry the information from the central nervous system to the visceral muscles, and from the visceral muscles to the central nervous system. So that is their main function. So we know about the different types of neural system, right? So we shall study about the neuron, which is the functional unit of the nerve cell. So neuron as a structural and functional unit of the neural system. So a neuron is a microscopic structure, and it is composed of three major parts. One is the cell body, the dendrites and the axon. So if you can see here, they are mainly divided into three parts: the cell body, then comes the dendrites, and then the axon. So apart from that, they have different parts as well, but these are the three main regions that the neurons are classified into. So let's study about each of these one by one. So starting with the cell body, what are there in the cell body we have to look into. So the cell body, it contains cytoplasm, and in the cytoplasm it contains some of the cell organelles, and also it contains some granular bodies which are called as the Nissel's granules. And we all know that cytoplasm is granular in nature. Any cytoplasm, it contains granular substances in it, right? Just like that, that is the cell body of the neuron also contains cytoplasm, which is granular in nature, and those granules or granular bodies are called as the Nissel's granule. So if you can see the cell body, which is the first part of the neuron, we can see the presence of the nucleus, and we can see the presence of the Nissel's granules. So that is what they are made up of, and apart from that, they contain some of the cell organelles as well. Next, talking about the second part, that is dendrites. So dendrites are the short fiber-like structures. If you can see the branched fiber-like structures that are there, they are the dendrites. So they are short fibers which branch repeatedly and they project out of the cell body. That's right. True, right? Can you see them coming out of the cell body? They project out of the cell body in the form of branched fiber-like structures. And these dendrites, since they project out of the cell body itself, they also contain cytoplasm, which has granular substances, and it is called as the Nissel's granules, and these are nothing but the dendrites. So what are the dendrites? Dendrites are nothing but the branched fiber-like projections from the cell body which contains the Nissel's granules. So what is the function of the dendrites? So dendrites actually, they are fiber-like structures, right? And the main function is to transmit impulses towards the cell body. So whatever messages or neurotransmitters are received, they are being received by the dendrites and then transported to the cell body. So this is about the dendrites. So moving further, let us study about the third important part, that is the axon. So axon, it is a long fiber-like structure. If you can see right from here, this whole part is nothing but together called as axon, and in the axon there are different types of parts that are present. So the axon is a long fiber and the distal end of the axon is branched. Distal end, that is at the end of the axon, if you see, they are branched. And each branch terminates or it ends as a bulb-like structure which is called a synaptic knob. So if you can see here, each branch of the axon. So axons at its terminal end, it branches, and at the tip of the branch you can see bulb-like structures. If you can see here, bulb-like structures, and these bulb-like structures are nothing but the synaptic knob. And the axon where it ends, the branching of the axon end, it's called an axon terminal, and in the axon terminal we'll find the synaptic knobs that are present. And these synaptic knobs contain synaptic vesicles, and these synaptic vesicles contain chemicals called as neurotransmitters. So impulses or senses or messages are received by the dendrites. It is passed to the cell body. From the cell body, it is passed through the axon. Once it reaches the axon terminal, it will enter into the synaptic knob. In the synaptic knob, the messages are received and the messages are transmitted further in the form of chemicals called as neurotransmitters. Why? Because these synaptic knobs are the ones that have chemicals which are called as neurotransmitters that help in transmitting the signals from one neuron to another, therefore reaching the action site. And the axons, they transmit nerve impulses away from the cell body to a synapse or to a neuromuscular junction. So what is a neuromuscular junction? We have studied that in the previous chapter, locomotion and movement chapter. So just go back, have a look at the video, you will understand what it is. So it is a junction between the nerve fibers and the muscle. So that we have studied. So in detail you can watch that session so that you'll understand very well about it. So this is the structure of the nerve cell or the neuron. So this was about this particular session wherein we concentrated on the different types of the nervous system, wherein we came to know about the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system, and also we understood about the complexity of the nervous system in different organisms, and we learned that the complexity increases as the hierarchy of the organism increases. And we also learned about the structure of the nerve cell, that is the neuron, which is the functional unit of the cell, and that nerve cell is the one that actually transmits the impulses. And we came to know that they are mainly divided into three parts: the cell body, the dendrites and the axons. And apart from that, in those three parts, the different parts that are present and their function we understood. And hence in the coming session we shall discuss about the transmission of the nerve impulses, how exactly the nerve impulses are transmitted from one neuron to another and therefore to their respective target sites. So we shall meet again in the coming session. Thank you.